MeMonster.
Chapter 61. Long after Kim Hajin left, Chain Ayun opened her eyes, which she had kept tightly shut. She only got up after confirming that Kim Hajin had completely disappeared. She had woken up a while ago, but her mind was still in a daze. It was most likely because of what Kim Hajin had said. "Why are you so cute?" Chain Ayun's cheeks flushed red. She had been praised for her appearance ever since she was young, but she never expected to hear such words from Kim Hajin. "Oh," Chain Ayun shook her head fiercely, trying to shake off her thoughts. "Whatever it was, I didn't hear it. He was talking to himself. There must have been a cat or a dog nearby. Definitely." She murmured and crawled out of the sleeping bag. The sleeping bag was as warm and cozy as a bed, making her night extremely enjoyable. After coming to that conclusion, she folded up the sleeping bag, which shrank to the size of a fist. Was it this small? She was astonished by the tiny sleeping bag. After putting it away, she checked her smartwatch. It was 7:20 in the morning, but it was still dark outside. It must be a polar night. Chain Ayun stretched and began to prepare for the day. On top of the world tree, I looked around in all directions. 1,000-mile eyes were unrestricted by obstacles, allowing everything to enter my vision. A day had already passed, and cadets were discovering their preferred methods of survival. Some sold food to obtain points, some chased after monsters, and some concealed themselves, waiting for unsuspecting cadets to walk by. When I found someone, a mischievous idea popped into my head, a way to eliminate cadets who were too strong for me to deal with. I snapped off a decently sized tree branch and sharpened one end. Then I inscribed a coordinate and some words on it. Next, I grabbed the tree branch and threw it at him. Because he was so far away, I had to use some of Stigma's magic power. The tree branch flew like an arrow and struck the ground after lightly brushing past his face. The cadet who was walking imposingly stopped and looked at the tree branch on the ground. From where I was, I could only see his back, but I knew very well what emotion he was feeling. He picked up the tree branch I shot out. After checking the words written on the side, he turned toward the direction the branch came from. Although he couldn't possibly see me from this distance, I still dodged his gaze. Now I just had to wait. Just like that, an hour went by. I was watching the drone footage on my laptop when I suddenly noticed a change. What? Already? Under the thick darkness, Rachel was heading somewhere with Ju Ye-hoon. I quickly expanded my sight and tracked them. Their destination seemed to be a wooded cliff. At the end of the cliff were two people. One was out in the open, and the other was hiding about a tree. I didn't know who they were, but I could safely assume they were djinns. First, I moved a drone over to them. But to my surprise, the drone's signal died when it got near. An alert arrived on my laptop notifying me of the reason. Ju Ye-hoon has various connections with other djinns, made contact with Lancaster family djinns. Now, Rachel accompanying Ju Ye-hoon also happened in the original story, but Lancaster was never a part of this exam. Now that he was involved, his goal had to be Rachel. Surprisingly, they were planning to fight in an open area. Most likely this was because secluded areas, like caves, were being used by other cadets as hideouts. Furthermore, because the area they chose belonged to the exam overseer, it was likely that no one would interfere. But still, their method was poorly planned. They must be the bottom rung. These brainless fools were likely part of the lowest class of djinns, blinded by their desire to make achievements and be loved by Lancaster. Since they were djinns, they had to be stronger than average cadets, but they still didn't look all that strong. However, they were still a threat with 3 of them working together. I took out my Desert Eagle. After transforming it into a sniper rifle, I peered into the distance. There, I could see Rachel walking with Ju Ye-hoon. Rachel likely joined Ju Ye-hoon's team temporarily to find food. In the original story, it was Kim Soo-ho who came to her rescue. I had shared my location with her to prevent this from happening, but she was a stubborn girl. Oh, maybe. Suddenly, I thought of Kim Soo-ho. To check if he was nearby, I expanded my vision a bit farther. Even in this serious situation, I couldn't help but laugh. Did the original story have an enforcing power? Kim Soo-ho was slowly walking towards Rachel. Next to him was Chae Na-yoon, who must have run into him as well. With this, it was 3-on-3. Even without my help, Kim Soo-ho and Chae Na-yoon would be more than enough to save Rachel. Tsk. However, Kim Soo-ho was Kim Soo-ho, and I was Kim Hajin. I had my own methods. I attached my rifle stock. I could see my targets clearly. My eyes could see farther than any scope in the world. Rachel's king continued to offer her their food. Although they offered it for free, Rachel still gave them some of her points as payment. However, she felt uneasy. She valued her combat exam grades just as much as written exam grades. Since she didn't know how many points would put her on top, she had to collect as many as possible. In the middle of her worry, Ju Ye-hoon asked her to join him for a hunt, saying they had found a grizzly bear monster worth 10 points. "I'm a sharpshooter, so I'll support you from the back. I only need 3 points, and Rachel C. can have the rest." "No, we should split it evenly." She didn't ask why it was only the two of them going. She followed him readily. In her mind, she wouldn't lose in a one-on-one battle, even if Ju Ye-hoon betrayed her. And she knew she would gain more points if there were fewer people. It was here. However, standing on the cliff she was guided to was not a bear, but a man. His long hair covered half of his face, and 2 gauntlets ominously glowed in his hands. On the fingertips of the gauntlets were claw-like daggers. "Who are you?" Ju Ye-hoon put on his best act. Just in case things went awry, he was preparing an escape route. The long-haired man also played along, raising his gauntlet-covered hands and charging at Ju Ye-hoon. In the blink of an eye, the man cut Ju Ye-hoon's shoulder and he screamed and ran away. The man didn't chase after him. That was Ju Ye-hoon. What was that? Rachel sighed as she held up her rapier. "Who are you?" At her question, the man made a chilling smile. "Shh!" The man said something, but Rachel couldn't understand him. It wasn't Korean or English. The man murmured to himself, then suddenly charged at Rachel. "Ugh!"
Rachel drew her magic power around her rapier and defended herself. Her rapier clashed with the man's gauntlets, creating hot embers that scattered out. Although the man had more magic power, Rachel could hold on thanks to his rough control. Next, the man's gauntlet struck down a few more times, which Rachel blocked with ease. Gauntlets versus rapier. The former had greater destructive power, but Rachel overwhelmed him with technique. As long as she maintained a safe distance, she felt she could come out victorious. "Hunt!" Then, in the middle of a fierce exchange of blows, Rachel spotted an opening in the man's defense. Without missing this opportunity, Rachel took a step forward, then rushed in. With a stab, she scratched the man's ribs, then tried to jump back. However, for some reason, she couldn't move her feet. At that moment, someone jumped down from the tree above her. It was another enemy. Rachel saw him land in front of her, then twist his sword and stab at her exposed back. "Kuan!" A scream rang out. Rachel didn't close her eyes as her thinking stopped momentarily. However, realizing that she was still alive, she re-examined the situation. The assassin, who had just dropped down from the tree, was rolling on the ground, writhing in pain. "Eh?" She looked down at her sword, wondering if she had attacked subconsciously. Immediately afterward, she dropped this thought as another attack flew toward her. However, the attack wasn't aimed at her. 5 streaks of highly powerful beams flew in, piercing through the assassin's stomach, limbs, lung, and heart. The assassin fell to the ground helplessly, then scattered into dust. "What's happening?" Rachel was taken aback, but she didn't have time to think as the gauntlet-wearing man shot toward her. The man knew the weakness of long-range sniping. When the target was close to an ally, sniping became virtually impossible. Furthermore, Rachel couldn't distance herself from the man. By now, she realized that her feet were stuck to the man's shadow. It was the magic shadow tag. Although she couldn't move her feet, she still did her best to defend and counterattack. Her movements made it seem as though she was dancing in a tiny space. Her nimble, fleeting movements caused the man to become enraged. Frustrated, he tried to stomp down on the ground itself when the unidentifiable attack flew in once again. Before anyone could react, the attack dug through the minute gap between him and Rachel, then blasted his shoulder. Using this opportunity, Rachel stabbed at his flank. But before her rapier could reach him, a sword strike flew in and struck his shoulder. Quack! With his shoulder cut, the man took a huge step backwards, then jumped down the cliff. Who was that? Two people ran up to Rachel, Kim Soo-ho and Chae Na-yoon. They were cadets Rachel knew. Rachel? Who was he? Chae Na-yoon asked. Her. Kim Soo-ho ran to the edge of the cliff and looked down. Did he disappear? Although she couldn't fully understand the situation, she still asked the question she most wanted to know. Yes, he's gone. What's up with that polite speech? Kim Soo-ho mocked Chae Na-yoon's sudden use of polite speech. It must have been Chae Na-yoon who helped me. That attack must have been her secret technique, something like invisible arrows. Meanwhile, Rachel tried to understand what happened. Thank you. You saved... At that moment, the moonlight reflected off something and pierced her eyes. That something was underground. It had dug into the ground but managed to reflect a faint moonlight. Rachel slowly approached the object, then picked it up. A bullet? At that moment, Kim Soo-ho muttered seriously. Let's move first. We don't know if that person will come back. Tss. Rachel examined the bullet on top of a campfire. Staring at it didn't reveal any new information, but Rachel had a person in mind. Kim Hajin. He used a shotgun when he helped her before, and the mysterious person who saved her had done so by sniping. However, Kim Hajin was the only one she knew who used a gun. However, she couldn't think of a motive. He helped her during the midterm exam, but that was likely because he was next door. If Kim Hajin was the one who helped her again, then that would mean that he helped her from far away through sniping. If that were true, she had 3 questions. First, how did he know that she was in danger? Second, if he was the one who helped her, why didn't he show himself? Third, why did he help her? So, did you decide to change to a sword? At that moment, Kim Soo-ho's voice rang out. He was talking to Chae Na-yoon. Rachel turned her gaze sideways and stared at Chae Na-yoon's waist. Just like Kim Soo-ho said, she had a sword by her side. Chae Na-yoon scratched her head as though she felt awkward. Rachel became alert. No, I just didn't want to rely on a bow only during such a big exam. So, it's a secondary weapon. Chae Na-yoon had brought 2 main weapons. One was a bow and the other was a sword. Since cadets could only borrow 1 main weapon, she had purchased a training sword from Cube directly. Oh, rather than that, Chae Na-yoon clapped, clearly trying to change the subject. Rachel, we have a plan. Do you want to come with us? Rachel tilted her head silently. It's like a cooperation team. You know, we can do fine even without forming teams. So we'll each take turns finding food, finding a place to sleep, and standing on guard. Then we'll go off on our own to hunt and meet back up later. Rachel thought it was a good idea. After postponing her answer for a moment, she on her exam's smartwatch. Location sharing list. Kim Hajin, Ju Yo-hoon. Kim Hajin. His location was still being shared. It's a good idea, but I'll have to decline. Rachel got up, and in response, Kim Soo-ho blinked and asked, Where are you going? Wouldn't it be dangerous now? It's fine. I'm going to meet up with someone. Then we'll take you there. No, I can go alone. She rejected him resolutely. Kim Soo-ho scratched his head and nodded. Don't be so cocky. Do you think every girl in the world loves you? Chae Na-yoon used this opportunity to deal a piercing blow.
Chapter 62. The situation ended with Kim Suho's arrival, but I spent another hour checking the surroundings before climbing down the world tree. Ah, what a pain! I groaned as I landed. Even with parkour, the tree was just too massive. Shaking off the numbness in my hands and legs, I checked my points. 22 points. That was a bit below average. Since I took 12 from Chain Ayun, I only earned 10 from monsters. In the original story, the top cadet scored 130 points, so I needed about 50 more to be safe. It should be possible if I worked hard today and tomorrow. I turned around, feeling optimistic. But as soon as I did, my body froze and my hair stood on end. I was so shocked I couldn't think. In front of me stood the Chameleon Troop's boss, disguised as Seo Ijin. She approached silently, staring at me with black eyes. Why was she here? Cold sweat ran down my back. My survival instinct screamed. I forced myself to calm down. She should be here to observe, not fight. What's the matter? Contrary to my expectations, she drew her sword and pointed it at me. She stood there, silent and unshaken. A chilling light flashed from her blade. My thoughts stopped. I didn't know why, but she was clearly picking a fight. Whether close or long range, I couldn't beat her. I'd die instantly or be beaten until I die. You know what? She spoke calmly. Just as she said, cadets were enemies now. But she was too powerful to be called an enemy, like how insects can't call humans their enemies. To them, humans are predators. But in this life-or-death moment, I saw a glimmer of hope. In this exam, cadets didn't fight to kill. The goal was to take the other's exam's smartwatch. Even if you subdued someone, if you didn't take their smartwatch, it wasn't your victory. If you were subdued but lost your watch, it was your loss. Currently, the smartwatch on her left wrist was loose. Maybe she wore it that way, or it loosened from her magic power, or maybe I was just lucky. Either way, this was my only chance. From my sleeve, I wove aether into a thread thinner than a spider silk. I controlled it so she couldn't see, inching it toward her left wrist like a worm dodging a hawk's gaze. Her focus was entirely on me. Even meeting her eyes felt suffocating, but I kept staring to buy time. Eventually, the aether thread reached her wrist and slipped off her smartwatch without her noticing. At that moment, she spoke. "Your weapon, take it out." "Weapon?" I asked, and she nodded. Meanwhile, the aether thread hovered just above the ground. Boss's close proximity made the ground her blind spot. When the watch was close enough, I yanked it into my hand. Whew. Was it luck or Boss's carelessness? Either way, I succeeded. I breathed a sigh of relief. Next, I reached into my pocket, pretending to take out my weapon, but instead brought up Boss's smartwatch. "You're surrendering?" She looked disappointed when she saw the watch. As I thought, she hadn't noticed. Because her skin was an added layer from Jane's gift, it wasn't as sensitive as her real body. Plus, she hadn't released any of her seals. "Does this look like it's mine?" I asked as casually as I could. Boss immediately furrowed her brows. I pointed at her wrist with my eyes. She tilted her head, then slowly looked down at her left wrist. "Eh?" Her eyes widened. She turned her wrist, confirming her watch was gone. "You know you're out the moment I crush this, right?" I spoke as calmly as possible. Boss seemed so shocked she didn't even notice, just staring at her wrist as if she'd lost her country. This can't be. Would that reaction get me about 50 SP? I feigned a carefree smile and gently put her smartwatch back on her wrist. What are you?" She was even more flustered than when I stole her watch, but I kept putting it back on her wrist. Still smiling, I bluffed. "I'll let you go this one time, okay?" "Let me go?" Her sword was still aimed at my neck, but I could feel it had lost its edge. I ignored it and turned away. Where are you going?" Boss tried to stop me, But I ignored her and kept walking, focusing on my legs more than ever. Just meeting her eyes had left my whole body numb. After Kim Suho left, Boss stared at the smartwatch on her wrist. She still couldn't understand how Kim Hajin had stolen it. Her plan was to confirm Kim Hajin's ability, but she was left even more shocked. Even with half her sense of touch gone from Jane's gift, she never expected to be humiliated by a 17-year-old cadet. She wondered, when did he take it? When we first met? When we were staring at each other? No, neither is right. Kim Hajin never moved. His magic power didn't show any sign of movement either. Boss looked at her right wrist, where a 4-leaf clover was tattooed. It was a seal release spell. Each leaf sealed a portion of her truth strength. Staring at the completely sealed clover, Boss wondered if she should have released one. In the end, she asked an eyewitness for help. "Jane, did you see?" What? See what?" But Jane's reply, after a short delay, wasn't what Boss expected. She sounded clueless. Boss frowned. I'm sorry. I got distracted for a moment. But it's not my fault. Droon kept pestering me to buy him Legos. So what's up?" Boss continued her thought. Kim Hajin stole my watch in that short time? Even with my power sealed, his dexterity and craftiness are beyond a cadet's level. "Tell me, what happened?" "I'll tell you later." "No, tell me now. You're making me curious. It's all because of that brat, Droon. Boss! Boss ended the contact coldly. After this incident, she was certain of Kim Hajin's potential. Now she just had to confirm Kim Suho and Shinjang Hak's. At that moment, her smartwatch rang. "Ijin Shi, where are you? Hurry! Didn't I tell you to come back by the half-hour mark?" Boss stared at the message with blank eyes. She thought, why does this girl keep ordering me around? After escaping from Boss, I found a camping spot. It was just as good as the last one. But honestly, I stopped at the first area near a river because my legs had no strength left. I thanked my luck again. I set up my tent, foldable table, and chair, then sat down and placed my bullets on the table. 14 bullets for the sniper rifle and 20 bullets for the shotgun. All were modified with SP. They boosted my strength, but each cost about 7 SP, so I couldn't waste them. I should have at least 20 of each type. Running out of bullets in battle would be a disaster. I opened my laptop. Current SP, 1,214. I had 1,214 SP. To create a decent gift, I needed about 2,000, but since I kept using them for bullets, my goal kept getting farther. I still thought that was better than someone dying. I restocked my sniper bullets and took out my portable grill. I was hungry from all the parkour. Today's lunch was braised chicken. It was too dark to be lunchtime. Without my 1,000-mile eyes, I could barely see in front of me. From my magical pouch, I took out a frozen chicken.
If you can wield magic power, add some to increase the chicken's flavor. I placed the chicken on the pan and imbued it with magic power as instructed. I didn't know the details, but the chicken suddenly became fresh. I thought, I should be able to eat it now. Psst, psst. A faint sound came from the tall grass nearby. I quickly drew my gun and aimed at the sound. Using my eyes, I saw through the grass. When I saw who it was, I put down my gun and grinned. Soon the ruffling became footsteps. The person who walked out was Rachel. "Rachel, see?" I acted surprised. A leaf stuck out of her hair. It must have fallen while she walked through the forest, but she hadn't noticed. Rachel looked around silently, shocked at the high-tech tent and grill, her mouth half open. Other than being silent, her reaction was just like Chain Yun's. "Oh, I like to prepare thoroughly." I smiled coolly. Rachel snapped out of her daze and stared at the grill where the chicken was cooking. "Would you like to join me for lunch?" Can I?" "I'll take 4 points, to be fair." I opened another chair. Rachel sat down, a bit hesitant. I took out a plate and placed half the chicken on it. Lunch began. Rachel must have been hungry. She finished the chicken in 10 minutes, eating silently. Even keeping up with her pace was hard. The chicken vanished in a blink, and I started cleaning up when Rachel asked, what have you been doing until now? Yes? I tilted my head. She must have realized I helped her. Was she trying to confirm it? Well, I was just running around trying to get points. I pretended ignorance. It would be too embarrassing to say, I'm the one who saved you. She scrutinized me but didn't ask more. She seemed to be thinking as she stared at the campfire. I thought she'd keep asking. I was planning to tell her if she asked a third time. Oh, did you get hurt? I noticed a deep wound near her collarbone. She must have gotten it filing the gins. Ah, yes, something happened. At that moment, a vandal seed, which I'd kept in my pocket, suddenly popped out. Ugh! The seed bounced toward Rachel, then jumped onto her collarbone. Rachel shrieked at the sudden ambush. Ah! What is this? You see... I jumped up just as surprised. What is this? Rachel tried to pull the seed off, but it slipped inside her clothes, heading for her armpit. I froze and couldn't do anything. You see, it's, my pet almond, not almond, pet seed, While I made excuses, Rachel reached into her clothes. I quickly turned away. A struggle followed. After a while, Rachel sighed deeply. I slowly turned around. Rachel was tidying her clothes, her face flushed. I dropped my head. I didn't expect the seed to do that. I'm sorry. Rachel looked between me and the seed, then spoke. A pet seed? Yes. It sounded as stupid as it probably did to her, but in this world of mysteries, I hope she'd believe it. I didn't have a better excuse. Rachel sighed again, then handed me the seed. I think it will be calmer if you raise it by planting it in the ground. Right. I took the seed and trapped it in a container.
Chapter 63. After lunch, once the awkwardness caused by Evandel's seed faded, Rachel approached me with a proposal. She suggested we team up, referencing the task cooperation team she had formed with Kim Suho and Chae Na-eun in the original story. I couldn't help but smile. You're saying the same thing as Chae Na-eun. Did Chae Na-eun make the same offer before me? No, it's not that. Anyway, I like the idea. There was no reason to refuse. After all, it was Rachel. But when I accepted, Rachel's face clouded with worry, as if something was on her mind. Oh, right, there's someone I sort of teamed up with already. Who? Have you heard of Ju Yo-hoon? I replied confidently. Don't mind him. I didn't explain the details, but I had already taken care of him. To be precise, I handed him over to an even stronger psycho. Yes? Don't worry about it. Just team up with me. I gave her a meaningful smile. No matter how powerful jinns who contract with devils were, there were cadets they couldn't touch for several reasons, and Shin Jong-hak was certainly one of those cadets. After Rachel was offered to Lancaster's jinns, Ju Yo-hoon hunted monsters to rack up points before returning to his base. However, the base he returned to was not the one he remembered. What should have been a cozy abode filled with the smell of wild boar and deer was now a complete disaster. The grass hut he built had collapsed, and blood and animal flesh littered the ground. For a moment, he wondered if he had come to the wrong place. What? But a man sat arrogantly in the center of the mess, as if to declare himself the culprit behind the chaos. Like an emperor on his throne, he fiddled with the exam smartwatches he had stolen. Ju Yo-hoon stared blankly at the man. You're here. The man spoke first, his deep voice echoing with authority.
He set the smartwatches aside and threw a tree branch at Ju Yo-hun. The branch shot past Ju Yo-hun's face and embedded itself in a tree behind him. Ju Yo-hun swallowed hard. He knew how dangerous this man was. With a trembling voice, he called out his name. Shin Jong-hak. Ju Yo-hun had a bad history with Shin Jong-hak since the Agent Military Academy. Part of the reason he contracted a devil was because of Shin Jong-hak. But now, Ju Yo-hun couldn't do anything. Not only was he unsure of winning a one-on-one fight, but he also saw some of the strongest cadets standing behind Shin Jong-hak. Kim Horok, the martial arts prodigy, Jin Han-jun, the wave-breaker swordsman, archer Oh Ji-hun. Looks like the trash can talk, Shin Jong-hak sneered, raising his spear. His expression twisted into a fierce frown. If you got held back, you should have stayed in the trash can where you belong. Why try to overstep your position? Ju Yo-hun couldn't understand what was happening. He glanced at the tree branch Shin Jong-hak had thrown. On its side was the coordinate of his group's base and a provocative sentence. He clicked his tongue. I'm not the one who sent this. It's someone else. I know. What? Shin Jong-hak cut him off. He wasn't stupid. He had already figured out that someone with a grudge against Ju Yo-hun had sent the branch. But I don't care. As if those words were a signal, his lackeys slowly approached Ju Yo-hun. I just don't like trash like you, snakes who only know how to flicker their tongues in the shadows. Shin Jong-hak raised his spear. 5 versus 1. Ju Yo-hun had no choice. He quickly turned and ran. Shin Jong-hak immediately hurled his spear after him. On a high ground, slightly north of the island's center, stood the Overseer Tower, where exam overseers and eliminated cadets rested. In this exam, overseers judged not only cadets' abilities, but also their character. The rule allowing cadets to fight each other was necessary since Jins were the main enemies of heroes, but cadets would be penalized for stealing points in an inhumane way. Yun Sung-ah, participating as an overseer, was looking out the window of the Overseer Tower. Are 8 drones not enough? You're looking out the window too. A Latino man named Vieri approached her. Who are you thinking about? He looked like he would speak Spanish, but his sweet Korean accent showed he'd lived in Korea a long time. Yun Sung-ah glanced at Vieri and replied, Kim Hajin. Who's that? Weren't you a fan of Kim Soo-ho? Yun Sung-ah smiled. Kim Soo-ho was of course her #1 priority. This was unquestionable, and until now she had only watched Kim Soo-ho. She had even revealed herself to him so he'd know she was watching. But information everyone knew wasn't really information. For now, she planned to focus on finding hidden talents. I received an interesting piece of information. Information? What is it? How can I tell you? It's top secret. The Korean peninsula was small, but many guilds were concentrated there. To survive, not fall behind, and surpass others, a fierce battle of information and politics raged between the guilds. The same applied to a guild's internal affairs, especially in a guild like Essence of the Strait, with divided factions. Using this power struggle, Yun Sung-ah managed to steal an interesting piece of information. So, are you going to check him out? I will later, when I have time. Of course, the information could be fake, but Yun Sung-ah had already noticed something strange about Kim Hajin, the magic power of light. Kim Hajin had already awakened the magic power of light. For a cadet like that, she was willing to risk her time. So, what are you going to do? Yun Sung-ah pointed at the name tag on her chest. Rank 307, Yun Sung-ah. This wasn't her cadet rank, but her world rank. Even this didn't include her accomplishments from last year, so once the updated ranking came in July, she expected it to be about 50 ranks higher. This is worth 200 points, right? Ha! You're going to use that as bait? I doubt anyone will fall for it. They'll just run. Really? Then I guess I'll just have to hide and watch. Yun Sung-ah smirked, not denying it. Because of the darkness covering the island, it was hard to tell if it was day or night. Rachel, who volunteered for night watch, glanced at the huge tent beside her. She couldn't see inside, but that also meant she wasn't visible to whoever was inside. She rummaged in her pocket and took out a bullet. Under the thick darkness, the tiny platinum bullet sparkled in the moonlight. She still couldn't believe such a tiny thing had protected her. Placing the bullet back in her pocket, she fell into thought. She was convinced Kim Hajin had saved her. After all, he was the only cadet who used a gun. Her question was why he denied it and how he knew she was in trouble. Was it the cold wind or the pale moonlight? Rachel ended up recalling a memory from long ago. The image of a man smiling gently surfaced in her mind. This wasn't in Korea, but in England. "No matter what happens, I will protect you, princess. Of course, I'm sure there are many more who wish to protect you." But the man had returned as the most fearsome assassin. Lancaster. Every time she thought of him, a part of her heart trembled as if freezing. Today's ambush was likely his doing as well. Distressed, Rachel buried her face between her knees. Should I have died with them back then? Sorrowful emotions resurfaced in her heart. I woke up on my tent's bed. There was no sunlight. Outside, it was just as dark as before I went to sleep. Was it going to be dark for all 5 days? I yawned and left the tent. Rachel, who had volunteered for night watch, was sitting modestly by the table waiting for morning. Was it because I was half asleep? She looked like an elf. For a moment I stared at her in a daze. Rachel tilted her head, as if my gaze was strange, then spoke. "What's today's menu?" Her words snapped me back to reality. What was I thinking staring at a character I created? Let me wash my face first." I trudged to the river, washed my face, dried it with a towel, and walked back. I'd over-prepared for the exam, so I had plenty of food. Since we had to hunt monsters today, I chose beef. To make sure Rachel was fine with it, I turned toward her. Before I could ask, I saw her staring at me, or rather, at my magic pouch which held the food. She really was hungry. "How's beef?" "Great," she replied instantly. I took out 2 pieces of sirloin steak I'd marinated beforehand. After heating the pan, I placed the thick steaks on it. As I said before, my aunt used to own a barbecue place. I lived alone for 4 years and, though it's nothing to brag about, I worked as a cook in the army. In other words, I was a pretty experienced cook. I added sliced onions and paprika to the pan, then a special sauce which immediately filled the air with a delicious aroma. Perfect. I plated the steak and handed it to Rachel. She stared at it, eyes sparkling. "Would you like some rice as well?" Rachel smiled brightly and nodded. I took her plate, added rice, and gave it back. She waited patiently, knife and fork in hand, wanting me to eat first. "I'm eating." The meal began after I cut a piece of steak. Maybe because of the circumstances, it tasted especially good. It was juicy and practically melted in my mouth. I'd bought the steak out of curiosity because the packaging said Grade 1 Magic Power Beef raised in highly dense manna environment, end quote. But it turned out to be a great choice, worth the high price. Our breakfast ended in 10 minutes, just like before. After drinking some water, I checked my exam smartwatch. What's this? For some reason, I had 4 more points than yesterday. A monster came while I was on watch. I know we said we'd split points from monsters we each hunted, but I thought I should share what I got while you were asleep. Ah, thank you. Thanks to her, I got some free points. Then let's split up now. We should go hunting. I stood up, and Rachel followed. The 3rd day of the exam went smoothly. Even without the Desert Eagle, I could hunt monsters thanks to my gift's increased grade and ether. Ether adhered to my training handgun without being noticed and strengthened its power. Of course, even with that, I had to avoid monsters above low intermediate rank grade 6.
In any case, I walked through the forest and hunted comfortably. As always, I shot from a distance, outside of danger. A lake. I discovered a dimly lit lake. Places like this were gold mines. There should be alligator monsters in it, which gave bonus points as an ambush monster. It was easy for me to lure them out. I just had to shine a light bright enough to cover the entire lake. And I learned how to do that not long ago. Strictly speaking, I couldn't say I learned it. Light sphere. It was the magic that Yu Yun Ha said no one else could perform. With Stigma's magic power, I created a sphere of light that radiated brilliantly. The white clump of light floated up, illuminating the surroundings. As soon as I sent the light sphere above the lake, I sensed a faint movement behind me. "Who is it?" I shouted, and the presence vanished. Whoever it was, they must have been skilled to avoid my notice until now. But now that I'd noticed, there was no way to escape my eyes. I peered through the tall grass, my sight expanding far beyond human limits. Then I spotted a person. It was Chae Na-yoon. She slowly backed away, then stopped. It seemed she planned to resume tailing me once things calmed down. Tongue. I shot a bullet at the ground in front of her feet. Chae Na-yoon's short scream echoed through the forest.
Chapter 64. Hayik! After a short scream, Chae Na-yoon jumped out of the tall grass. With a sour expression, she slowly approached me. "Why were you following me?" I asked, keeping my gun pointed at her. "Don't misunderstand, I wasn't following you." Chae Na-yoon scratched her face as she spoke. "Then what?" "See, I'm right." She glared at me, but quickly changed the subject. "Well, before that, how did you do that just now?" Without any sign of intimidation, she asked about the light sphere I had just created. Clearly, my gun wasn't threatening enough. "Tell me why you were following me first." Chae Na-yoon furrowed her brows, then finally answered, "I wasn't following you, I was following Sung-ah Unni." "Huh?" I tilted my head. Why was Yoon Sung-ah's name coming up now? Sung-ah? The same Yoon Sung-ah that I know? Yeah, but you should really address her more politely. I turned away, pretending to think, while I took out my laptop and checked the drone footage. There were 4 drones in this area. On one of the screens, I saw Yoon Sung-ah sitting on a tree like a cat, looking down at us. Yoon Sung-ah. Hey, can you stop addressing her with just her name? I already knew she was here as an overseer and who she would be observing. The first 2 days should be Kim Soo-ho, then the 3rd and 4th days would be for other potential talents. If things followed the original story, she should be watching Jaden by now. Could it be that I was on her list of potential talents? Hey, now tell me how you made that light sphere. Yeah, I'm the one who made it. Anyway, since you're here, let's hunt these together. No, I know you made it. I'm asking how you... Ah, damn it! At that moment, an alligator fired a mana ball at Chae Na-yoon. I was satisfied. My luck even helped me with such trivial matters. Yoon Sung-ah looked down from a tree. I was almost discovered. When Kim Hajin created a light sphere, Yoon Sung-ah was shaken. If it wasn't for Chae Na-yoon, she would have been found out. Of course, light sphere was a magic most heroes could use easily, but the intensity of the light and the duration were the problems. Condensing magic power externally and maintaining it sounded easy, but it was a difficult technique that even Yoon Sung-ah only mastered in the first term of her first year. I knew that kid wouldn't write a baseless report. Seeing Kim Hajin create a light sphere of that scale so easily, Yoon Sung-ah smiled in satisfaction. Kim Hajin, I'll have to add a star above his name. The alligator's mouth opened wide, and I blasted bullets into it. Wa-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I emptied an entire magazine, 20 bullets in 1 second, an incredible speed. The alligator writhed in pain, but the injury wasn't fatal. My attack wasn't meant to kill, only to injure. The real attack came next. A flash of magic power drew a line. A terrifying force towered over a sword blade and severed the alligator's mouth. With its body and mouth separated, the alligator slumped down helplessly. That was Chae Na-yoon's sword strike. No alligator could withstand even a single sword strike from her. It was literally cutting in two with one stroke of the sword, a truly awe-inspiring power. Did you start using a sword? Che Na-yun put away her sword silently. At the same time, her hands were trembling noticeably. Seeing this, I closed my mouth. The unpleasant sensation of cutting through flesh must still linger on her hands. I didn't know what that felt like. Not knowing it made me fear it even more. Since there's 4, we'll each scan 2. I'll take this one and that one. I scanned 2 alligators with the exam smartwatch. Out of conscience, I chose the 2 smaller ones. Che Na-yun scanned the other 2, and the hunt ended. Now there was no reason for us to be together. Since we're done here, you should go. You really don't want to tell me, huh? Is it so hard to tell me how you made that light sphere? Che Na-yun pouted and grumbled. With a small smile, I answered, "You'll get hurt if you find out." What? Che Na-yun frowned. That's the truth. If I wanted to explain Stigma's magic power, I'd have to explain that this world was inside a novel. What nonsense is that? Just go. I came here first, so you go that way. I pointed in a direction and started walking the other way. Che Na-yun seemed to glare at my back, then finally began to walk. No, stomp away. After splitting up from Che Na-yun, I moved busily. Using thousand-mile eyes, I searched for low intermediate rank, grade 7 to 9 monsters, then killed them. Wolf, deer, octopus. In just 2 hours, I obtained 15 points. And now, I stopped, feeling a presence from the tall grass behind me. It wasn't that I noticed her presence. The person tailing me this whole time revealed herself on purpose. It seemed she finally wanted to show herself. She must have finished observing me. I waited patiently. Soon, she flew through the trees like a butterfly and landed about 50 meters in front of me. "Hello." Yoon Sung-ah spoke with a bright smile. "This is the first time since you turned me down, right?" "Right, but what is it so suddenly?" "Oh, I'm sorry. It's really a bit sudden, isn't it?" Yoon Sung-ah nodded, then continued. "You see, I've been going around to different cadets giving them a special event, to also test their skill." "What? Event?" "Yes," she pointed to the name tag on her chest. "Would you like to try taking it?" "Yes?" Although she might not have meant it, her words and the way she pointed could easily be misunderstood. Unaware of my thoughts, Yoon Sung-ah continued. "The event is simple. I'll stay here, only using my left hand. If you can make me move even one step, or if you land an attack anywhere other than my left hand, I'll give you this name tag." "Name tag?" "Yes, I'll bet my guild on this promise." If she was betting her guild, that was more than a promise. I rubbed my chin and pondered. That name tag was worth 200 points, which would undoubtedly put me in first place. In that case, what could I gain from getting first place on the final exam?
First, I would gain quite a bit of SP, as guilds and jins would take notice of me. Furthermore, Kim Soo-ho, who was supposed to get first place, might be encouraged to try harder. No. I was forgetting the most important thing. How to take Yoon Sung-ah's name tag in the first place. "I'll stay here. Make your decision. You can challenge me, or you can turn back," Yoon Sung-ah added, as if she read my thoughts. It's quite an unexpected event. As I said that, I fired at her without warning. But Yoon Sung-ah instantly struck down the bullets, using just her left hand as promised. It almost looked like the bullets were plastic straws. That was pretty prickly, far more powerful than what a training handgun should be capable of. Looks like your gift really is related to guns. In that exchange, Yoon Sung-ah didn't coat her hand with magic power. She struck down the bullets purely with her physical ability. Most likely she wanted to confirm the bullet's power. For the record, the reason the bullets were stronger wasn't my gift, but the invisible ether. By adhering to the training handgun, ether had strengthened its power. "Try more." At Yoon Sung-ah's words, I pulled the trigger 10 more times. 10 bullets flew at her almost simultaneously at different parts of her body. However, Yoon Sung-ah struck them all down without moving a single step. She didn't use magic power either. That was fast. I thought they were coming at me simultaneously. Yoon Sung-ah muttered leisurely. I might actually have a chance. The handicap she put on herself was that critical. Since I also had 2 knives, perhaps I could try a feint.
With that in mind, I took out the 2 knives hanging by my waist, then wrapped Stigma's magic power around their handles. Oh, right. You used a sword before you switched to a gun. Using a gun and sword at the same time, that's smart. Bothered by her commentary, I threw the knives at her, one toward her chest and the other toward her face. Then I fired. 2 knives and 20 bullets. I wondered how Yoon Sung-ah would deal with this. Clang! Yoon Sung-ah first struck down the 2 knives, then took the bullets with her body by mitigating their impact. At that moment, however, the 2 knives sprang up again. Hurriedly repositioning themselves after being flung away, the knives flew toward her heels. She said she would only use her left hand, and her heels were too far for her hand to reach. However, to my astonishment, she released magic power with her left hand and completely shattered the knives. Wow, my attack ended in vain. However, Yoon Sung-ah's expression was one of excitement. Interesting! You used magic power to change the trajectory of the knives. What technique is that? You're like an onion, Hajin, see? I ignored the last bit of praise and scratched my neck. There was nothing I could do. Unless a lightning bolt or a meteor suddenly fell on Yoon Sung-ah, this event was impossible to accomplish. Even luck couldn't cover such an absurd difference in skill. I put my gun back in my holster, but Yoon Sung-ah seemed to misunderstand my intention, as the magic power on her left hand became even sharper. What mysterious technique are you trying to show this time? With her hand blade held out, she smiled. Yoon Sung-ah was still hungry, still unsatisfied. Her desire to collect talent was truly admirable. However, I planned to mercilessly betray her hopes. After collecting the shattered remains of my knives, I turned back without regret. Then I began to walk away. About 5 steps, Yoon Sung-ah's dazed voice rang out. Hello? I continued to walk away, and then she took a step forward. Where are you going? At that moment, I turned around. You said you would only use your left hand. Eh? I pointed at her right foot, then spoke, but you just used your right foot. Immediately, Yoon Sung-ah's face became frozen cold. I'm kidding. I chuckled and turned back. In truth, I was only half joking and planned to argue with her, but because Yoon Sung-ah's eyes were so intimidating, I just gave up. Let's just go back to the tent and eat with Rachel. The 4th day. Rachel C., stay with me for today. During breakfast, I told Rachel. But Rachel tilted her head in the middle of eating. The test will end soon. This was that day. It was something she should have naturally faced with Kim Soo-ho, but because Rachel was teamed up with me, I had to bring her there. This was a very important event, as this is where Rachel would obtain a clue to her enlightenment. Everyone's pretty crazed. It'll be too dangerous alone. In reality, today was the last day, as the exam would end at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I have to protect you, Rachel C. I spoke again. Rachel was about to nod when she suddenly paused and then tilted her head again. You didn't hear wrong. I grinned and got up. Butterfly seedling. It was dangerous for me to even get near it. If I accidentally let its root touch me, although I wouldn't instantly die thanks to ether, I would undoubtedly lose 1 or 2 organs. I need you to protect me.
Chapter 65. The butterfly seedling was an elemental-type monster. After slowly growing in strength within the world tree's roots, it would emerge today and cause chaos. I never wrote a detailed reason for its rampage, but if over 1,000 people suddenly barged into my home, I'd be mad too. In the original story, Kim Soo-ho, Chae Na-yoon, and Rachel cooperated to defeat the butterfly seedling. It would then leave 2 presents: a hint for Rachel's enlightenment and the butterfly seedling dust for Kim Soo-ho. Come here. I kept glancing behind me, worried Rachel might run away. Since we were circling the world tree, we only managed to kill 4 monsters. Split between us, we each received 6 points. I wouldn't blame her if she knocked me out and took my points. Rachel followed me with an unhappy expression. I tried to find as many monsters as possible, but there really weren't many around. I checked the time. The problem was I couldn't remember exactly when the butterfly seedling appeared. Did I have to keep walking around the world tree until it showed up? I think monsters will be on the outskirts of the island. In the end, Rachel spoke up. She was right. Most cadets were near the outskirts as well. No, I don't think so. But I rejected her idea. Rachel pouted and continued to walk with me. Soon, I noticed her trying to slip away down a side path. "Where are you going?" "Just checking if there's anything nearby." After making a dry excuse, she followed me again. Then, after 30 minutes of wandering around the world tree, whoom, I finally felt an unusual vibration, like an earthquake. I looked toward the epicenter. From the world tree's giant root, a seedling resembling a butterfly emerged. Kim Suho and Chae Na-yoon were also nearby. "Follow me." With a serious face, I guided Rachel. Kim Suho was walking through the forest with Chae Na-yoon. There wasn't a big reason for it. Chae Na-yoon just kept getting lost. "Hey, what do you think about Kim Hajin?" The forest was still dark. When they were bored and unable to find any monsters, Chae Na-yoon suddenly asked Kim Suho. "Kim Hajin?" Kim Suho tilted his head, looking at Chae Na-yoon. "Why? Is he on your mind?" "No, just, don't you think he's hiding a lot of secrets?" The light sphere, the archery duel, what happened in Paris, Chae Na-yoon thought there was more to Kim Ha-jin than met the eye. "I guess you're right." Kim Suho gave a somewhat meaningful reply. "What is that reaction?" "What? You said he's hiding secrets, and I answered you." Kim Suho smiled evasively. In truth, he was half sure Kim Ha-jin liked Chae Na-yoon. The conversation they had in Paris was proof enough. So what is he hiding? "I've been thinking about her for far longer than you, and I've been watching over her all this time, so I know far more about her than you." How much did someone have to like another to say something like that? Kim Suho didn't know, since he'd never felt that way about anyone. "Hey, tell me." "Why ask me? You should find it out for yourself." With a blooming smile, Kim Suho teased Chae Na-yoon. "You..." At that moment, whoom, an unusual vibration rang out. Kim Suho and Chae Na-yoon looked at each other. Without exchanging words, they both ran toward the source of the vibration. The epicenter was an open field beneath the world tree. When they arrived, they saw a strange butterfly flying around. "What is that?" It looked like a butterfly. It had wings that flapped, and it was flying, but its appearance was far from a real butterfly. Its wings were woven from tree roots, and leaves grew on its face and body. Rather than a living creature, it looked like something crafted by hand. "It's an elemental monster." Kim Suho quickly realized. It was a spiritual being that absorbed the world tree's vitality to form a body. Kim Suho raised his sword, while Chae Na-yoon hesitated between her sword and bow. "Is it strong?" "It looks like it." In the end, Chae Na-yoon chose her sword. Then, the butterfly seedling moved. Its chilling eyes peered down at them, making Kim Suho and Chae Na-yoon flinch. "It looks super strong." Suddenly, goom! A large, tendril-like root tore through the ground and shot up. Several more followed, until there were a dozen. They spread out in all directions, writhing threateningly, then struck down at Kim Suho and Chae Na-yoon. They too jumped back, dodging the roots. Koom, 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 koom. The roots kept coming. "Hey, I think we need to cut them off." Chae Na-yoon shouted as she dodged, and Kim Suho nodded. They both swung their swords at the flying roots. Kim Suho's blade easily severed a root, but Chae Na-yoon had trouble. The giant roots were harder than gold and carried magic power that strengthened them. For the current Chae Na-yoon, they were tough opponents. As Chain Ayun struggled, a streak of red shot through the darkness and struck the root she was fighting. It was a bullet. There was no physical damage, but fire ignited at the point of contact, burning the root's surface. Then Chain Ayun swung her sword at the weakened root, easily cutting it apart. Next, a crescent moon-shaped sword key flew at the butterfly seedling's main body, and the monster barely dodged by lowering its flight. Chain Ayun turned toward the direction of the two attacks. The odd pair of an average-looking man and a princess out of a fairy tale. Kim Hajin and Rachel stood there. Koom! More roots shot up from the ground near them. Kim Hajin quickly ran out of range, while Rachel dodged the attacking roots gracefully. "When did you guys get here?" "Attack the main body!" Kim Hajin shouted, hiding behind a bush. "What?" "The main body, not the roots. Use your bow for today." "What are you doing hiding back there?" A root struck down again, and Chain Ayun shouted as she blocked it with her sword. "Hey, support me like before!" But it was Rachel, not Kim Hajin, who sent a blade of wind in support, striking the root and making it fall back. Then Chain Ayun charged her sword with magic power and struck down at the root. With a clean diagonal slash, the root split in half. Oh ho! Chain Ayun liked the sensation, especially compared to cutting down a living creature. With this, she felt she could do even better. She tightened her grip. Magic power surged on her blade, extending it to 4 meters. Then Chain Ayun swung the long sword of magic power with full strength. Ah! Chain Ayun was going wild with her sword, even though a bow would have been better for the situation. With no other choice, I fired my gun, hoping to at least slow down the butterfly seedling. In an instant, 20 bullets, an entire magazine, shot out. Each time a bullet hit, a part of the butterfly seedling's wings tore off. My attacks weren't strong enough to detach the wings, but the butterfly seedling clearly didn't like it. A root shot up from its back, sweeping across the ground and shooting toward me. I couldn't close my eyes. Its movement was clear. Then the viciously flying root stopped right in front of me. A single sword had blocked its advance. The bearer of the sword was Rachel, who appeared like a hero. Rachel looked back at me silently. I immediately jumped back, out of the root's reach. At the same time, more roots began to pop up. Rachel managed to dodge them with nimble movements, but the roots multiplied until she was completely surrounded. Eventually, a root struck Rachel's stomach, sending her flying like a toy hit by a baseball bat. She crashed into a tree some distance away, then fell down. She coughed up blood. I watched the scene objectively and noted that it wasn't a fatal blow thanks to her chi reinforcement. Still, she wasn't in good shape. Toong! As I wondered whether to take out the desert eagle, Evandal's seed jumped out of my pocket. It bounced toward Rachel like a hopping rabbit, then stuck to her wounded stomach. Rachel, writhing in pain, didn't notice the seed. I reluctantly let the seed be. Now wasn't the time to scold it. That damned butterfly. I glared at the butterfly seedling flying in the distance. If I could just break those wings, Kim Suho should be able to handle the rest, but I couldn't just take out my desert eagle. Whew. I had no other choice. I took a deep breath, then imbued Stigma's magic power into the training gun's magazine, refining the bullets with fire attribute magic power. I could only refine 3 bullets, and this was with the training gun, not the Desert Eagle. Were 3 bullets enough? That was a worry for after I fired. Carefully aiming at the butterfly seedling, I pulled the trigger. A bullet flew out, striking the butterfly seedling's wing. Immediately, an explosion erupted. Huh? I muttered in a daze. Worried I was seeing things, I rubbed my eyes and looked again. What? I wasn't imagining it. The butterfly seedling lost its wings and was now falling to the ground. Its wings weren't just torn, they had completely burned away with a single bullet.
I was confused. My magic power couldn't possibly have that much power. I looked around carefully. There had to be a reason unrelated to me. Sure enough, I saw a woman hiding in the bushes. With an expressionless face, she held a bead-like object, eyeing the butterfly seedling greedily. It was So Hajin. Ah. My attack wasn't what shot down the butterfly seedling, but hers. It wasn't a coincidence. She made it look like I was the one who shot it down so she could remain hidden. Her goal was undoubtedly to take the butterfly seedling dust. At that moment, Kim Suho charged at the fallen butterfly seedling and easily cut it in half with his sword. Then, golden dust suddenly rose up, lighting the sky like fireworks. However, this wasn't the butterfly seedling dust. It was a sleeping powder that So Hajin threw out. I blocked my nose and mouth, then looked around. Kim Suho could resist status effects to a certain degree, but he was currently dazed by the beautiful sight. Chae Na-yoon seemed half drunk. Meanwhile, So Hajin made her move. I tried to stop her, but a giant light suddenly erupted. Grabbing my attention, my jaw dropped automatically. Under the golden dust sparkling in the sky, Rachel felt herself growing drowsy. She felt sluggish and sleepier than ever. It seemed to be the elemental's power. Knowing the monster was dealt with, she closed her eyes. Although she couldn't believe it, the butterfly seedling was blown up by a single bullet from Kim Soo-han. Since they had killed such a powerful monster, she felt safe taking a break. If first place is too much to ask for, please let me take third place at least. But suddenly, a giant light pricked at her eyes. The light was so intense that she could feel it even with her eyes closed. As a result, she opened her eyes slightly. A golden clump of light was shining on her stomach. The light glimmered brilliantly, then began to form a human shape. Rachel stared at the light, embracing her. No, it wasn't just light. It was a child, perhaps about 3 years old. For some reason, Rachel felt a familiarity in the child's face. Soon she realized why. The child looked like her younger self. The girl embracing her gave her warmth. It felt like the injury on her stomach was being healed. Rachel subconsciously stroked the child's hair, and the child smiled at her. A clear, innocent smile. Rachel smiled back. But when the child opened her mouth, Rachel's face stiffened. She wanted to ask the child to repeat what she just said, but before she could, golden dust fell on her head. Her mouth refused to move, and the drowsiness became heavier. She slowly closed her eyes. The child had said a single word: Mommy.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.